I would probably say if people out there watching this video associate one thing with my students, it's the ability to come out, sit in the center of the stage, and take an extremely aggressive, even intimidating guard position where opponents are very worried about engaging. They feel if they over engage, they're going to get finished. Um, there's a dual threat of leg locks and moves that feed off overreactions to the leg locks, where people come up, score reversals, get top position, pass, and work their way towards their opponent's back. But everything starts with that sense in which the person, unusually in jiu-jitsu, is even from bottom position leading the dance, as it were. They're the ones who, we typically don't associate bottom position with pressure. Normally you think the top guy is the one who creates pressure. But what's unusual about my students is they have a propensity to create a pressure through threat. There's a sense in which people are afraid to go in, and that threat either results in a submission by itself or creates reactions to the threat, overreactions, to be honest with you, that mean they can come up for positional moves and work their way towards their opponent's back. What I really wanted to do in the New Wave Jiu-Jitsu series is to look at guard position in a way which is very different from traditional methods. Now, Bernardo, when you and I learned guard, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we probably learned the same way.
Close guard.
You got shown a guard. They chose a guard. It was usually closed guard. It was a closed guard when I was young. I think it was closed guard for you too. You were shown a guard, and you were shown a collection of moves from guard.
Scissor sweep,
Kimura, you know the drill. And then as you got older, you learned a new guard, butterfly guard, X guard, or what have you, Danaher guard. And the way jiu-jitsu has always been traditionally taught from guard position is, okay, here's a guard, and here's a collection of moves from there. And the students go out, they learn the guard, and then they learn a collection of moves. Then they get thrown into a sparring situation and they try their best to apply the moves. And the results usually aren't particularly impressive. Most people struggle to transition from drilling, which seems to be quite easy for them, versus sparring, which is often very, very difficult. I would say, in my experience teaching, that most beginners in the sport of jiu-jitsu typically find bottom position more challenging than top position. The skills required are less familiar to most people. If you're an average 25-year-old guy coming in for his first days in jiu-jitsu, most of them have a good sense of roughhousing when they were young, to wrestling with their brothers, and they have a sense of, okay, if they're in top position, they can have a rough idea of what they're supposed to do. But guard position is like this whole new thing. It's like nothing in life prepares you for that. We don't grow up learning how to wrestle from our back and use all four of our limbs. So it's a real challenge. So what I wanted to do in this series was look at how I coach guard position to my students. How is it that they're able to go out and create pressure from bottom position through threat and intimidation of a certain kind of submissions program, which enables them to either get very quickly into submission holds or create reactions in fear of that, which leads to positional attacks. And that's really the main thing that we're looking at here. One of the big themes that I'm trying to push, Bernardo, is the idea that jiu-jitsu players must start going beyond the traditional approach of looking at high percentage technique from guard position and start adding to that the idea of high percentage strategies from guard position.
Makes sense.
I think once you understand that the strategies that govern your technique are every bit as important as the technique themselves, that's when your guard position starts really progressing rapidly. I've always been very proud of the fact that my students excel in the bottom position, and they're able to go out and get an unusually high submission rate out of bottom position jiu-jitsu. I've always associated guard position as the quintessential jiu-jitsu position. If you look at other grappling styles, they have many elements that are actually pretty similar to jiu-jitsu. But one thing which is really distinctive about jiu-jitsu is guard position. Like, there's many grappling styles, judo, sambo, wrestling, they have many moves in common with us. But guard is
only jiu-jitsu.
It's pretty much jiu-jitsu. Judo has a guard, sambo has a guard, but it's not a big part of the sport. It's underdeveloped. Whereas jiu-jitsu, the quintessential jiu-jitsu position, the one I associate most with the sport, variations of guard position. So I always push my students to play the bottom game first, to learn that first, because it is, I believe, for most people a little more challenging, and then work from there. And it shows in my students. They're all very dangerous from bottom position. And I wanted to teach that, the methodology that I use to teach my students, and put it on this video series. The first thing might be a bit of a surprise. I'm going to ask you a question, Bernardo. I'm curious about your answer, actually, because I wonder how this squares with your experience. Tell me the first things you learned in guard position when you were a beginning student.
Was close guard.
Me too. I use close guard. Now, be more precise. What did they teach you from close guard?
Scissor sweep.
Good.
I call the hand on the belt sweep.
Good.
Kimura.
Good.
Arm bar.
Good.
Choke.
Excellent.
Strangle.
Good. Okay. Those are almost identical to what I learned. Now, there's something in common with all those moves. They're all offensive moves. Okay. What was the next thing you learned?
I think when my opponent stands up, grab the both shins and...
Good. I learned the same thing.
And then, now that you mentioned about the offensive, I really started thinking about the defense of it. And my instructor, which was very good with the fundamentals of... He used to do a lot of drills about how to recover the guard. Like the guy passed my guard here, hip escape, bring the knee in, and have him on guard again and go to the close. But those are the basic moves that I...
What I've always noticed in most coaching programs is that when people first go to learn guard, they're taught almost exclusively how to attack from guard position. And this is, that's a healthy thing. It's not wrong. It's how I learned it. My experience is similar to you. I was taught how to attack from close guard and then ultimately different forms of guard. But the overwhelming majority of guard training for most beginning jiu-jitsu students is offensive. It's how to attack from guard position.
That's true.
I take a very different approach. My whole thing when I first start teaching guard to people is retention.
That's amazing, John.
I start with retention. Okay, I start with retention for the same reason, plus you'll see this whenever you come to train with us. I always start jiu-jitsu training in general with defense, okay? All of my students have to start with defense. That's odd, right? Because my students are mostly associated with a strong submission offense. But all of their early training is all defensive training. And the logic is very simple, that if they don't believe in their ability to get out of bad position, they'll never take a risk
to attack
for offense. So they won't pull the trigger when the ability to do so is there. Exactly the same thing is true of guard position. Let's say you've got a really great armbar from guard. You've been training it, you've drilled it so many times you can do it in your sleep, and it feels great. But you're going against someone you believe is a very strong guard passer. And in the hurly-burly of it, you're fighting from bottom, he's fighting from top, he's scrambling to pass your guard. You see the opportunity, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. If it doesn't work, I'm going to compromise my position, he's going to pass. What are you going to do? You're going to hesitate. You're going to second guess, and then the situation's gone. I see this all the time. If you don't believe in your ability to recover from a failed attack from guard position, you won't attack. You'll find an excuse to hang back. My students attack without fear in guard position because they believe it's highly unlikely someone is going to pass as they're attacking because they've got good retention skills. Just as I always start them with pin escapes so that they never fear going for submissions. If someone passes and gets across their side, they know they can get out. So too with retention, because they know every time they attempt an attack, there's a very good likelihood they'll be able to retain guard and stay in guard. They're not afraid to attack from guard. Now, for you guys out there that have maybe just been doing jiu-jitsu not such a long time, this isn't such an issue for you. That tends to occur more at the advanced levels. But even for someone who's just starting out in jiu-jitsu, I have some little words for you. I could sit here all day and show you some amazing attacking moves from guard that you'd be like, wow, that's so cool, I never thought of that. I could show you all of this, and it won't help you. Why? Because when you go back into the beginner's class that you're working in and you try to employ them, your opponent passes your guard and you just don't have enough time to employ the moves. Every move from guard position requires time. If you can't hold your guard long enough, none of them are going to help you. The first requirement of excellence in guard position is the ability to retain guard long enough that you can get the moves to work. If Placido just blows through my guard before I get anything going, my armbar is not going to help me, my triangle is not going to help me. So the first prerequisite of successful guard play is time. You have to be able to hold and retain the guard long enough to get the damn move to work. And then secondarily, as you get more advanced in the sport, that's when the psychological element starts coming in. That's when you've got to be able to have confidence that even at the highest levels, you can retain guard so that you can take risks from guard position without fear. If you don't believe you can take a risk, you won't pull the trigger when the opportunity is right there in front of you. So that's why, Bernardo, almost all of my guard play training begins with retention.
No, that makes a lot of sense, John.
Sumi Gaeshi is among the most important positional moves in the sport of jiu-jitsu. It is a sweeping and throwing method that uses your legs to lift and turn an opponent onto his back so that you can get up on top of him. It works at all levels of the sport and in all weight categories. It is equally effective in both gi and no-gi jiu-jitsu. It has been used as the centerpiece of bottom guard attacks by many great athletes for generations. I believe that investing serious time in the study and practice of Sumi Gaeshi is one of the best things that you can do to improve your overall jiu-jitsu game. Sumi Gaeshi is typically employed from seated guard, usually when an opponent is on 1 or 2 knees. But, as we shall see in this video, it is also very effective even against standing opponents as well.